Hey, someone posted a question in the forum about this, and it was a really good question on whether or not the y-intercept for an odd function always has to be 0, 0. And so the short answer is mostly yes. Well, if the y-intercept exists, it does need to be 0, 0. But there's also one other possibility where it's not defined, and I'll show you both of those with the graph. And so here was the original question. Remember, for an even function, if I put in -1 and I got 2, and I put in +1, I should get 2. So it's definitely not even. For odd, when I put in -1, I get 2. When I put in +1, I do get -2. That's what we should see. I put in -8, I get -2. +8 gets me its opposite, +2. So when I put in 0, I get 5. There's no opportunity there for me to get the opposite of 5 with 0. So the 5 and -5 would actually make this not a function. And so the only point that can work there is when you put in 0, you get 0, because then its opposite is 0 again. Let me show you that on a graph, and I think that actually makes it way more clear. So let me get this thing out of here. So here is a graph of just x cubed. So that's kind of our classic odd problem or example. So there's 0, 0, the origin. So here you can see when x is -2, we get -8. And then up here, when x is 2, we get +8. So that's acting like a regular kind of odd function would. And for that, we have to have 0, 0. You can see if this thing popped up to 0, 5, it would not be matching in the first and third quadrants anymore. And that's kind of a odd function thing, is if you fold this graph up and then over, it has to sit on top of itself. So for this to hop up to this 5, that's going to create a break in that symmetry. Where it isn't 0, 0 is when it's undefined. So 1 over x is an odd function. It still has that symmetry. Notice if I folded this up and then folded it over, it would sit right on top of itself. But in this case, we have division by 0, so there turns out to be a vertical asymptote there. So it's not defined at 0, 0. So we can also have an odd function in that situation. For the one that was on the homework, that's these black dots. And so all the ones that looked like they were working, that's these ones right here, where it looks like this thing, whatever, if this was like some sort of curve, it would be swooping up, coming down, and then it should be, you can see there's the odd function. And if it went through 0, 0, instead of up here, that would totally be odd. And see if I change this 5 to a 0, all of a sudden, so now it has that symmetry. But because this point was up here, it's a neither instead of an odd.